From last time, we had put the beam into the wall by the garage. And in order to clear that beam with the sheetrock, we need to be at least 2.5 inches out. So the first thing we do is put a 1-inch buffer material on there. We can stand out from the studs and put the rails on the standouts. There's several options. We don't have to decide that now. But we need an inch spacing on both the left side of the beam and the right side of the beam. So we draw that in, and we can put insulation in there, other sound deadening materials. Once we get the measurements exactly an inch for that, then we need to come out and begin adding the 1.5 inch for the rails. So we put the 1.5 inch for the isotrax rails in, and we measure that, make sure that's 1.5 inches, and do whatever adjustments we need to get that to be right. And once we got that at 1.5 inches, then we're ready to go and add the materials to the thing. So we first add the labeling for the buffer material, and then we add the labeling for the isotrax rails. And we already had a sheetrock label in there for material, so we put the sheetrock in. We'll have to do some adjustments to the corner, but that's okay. That's not a big deal at this point. And then we go in and put the sheetrock in on the back wall as well, and that should finish the back wall. Once we get that to be the correct size and depth, we need it to be 5/8 inch, just like the rest of the sheetrock. So we go in and adjust the depth on that material to be 5/8 inch. And once we get it to be 5/8 inch, there we go. And we go in and label it to be sheetrock with the materials labels. Set it to be sheetrock. And then we need to finish on the last wall. The last wall that we have to contend with is the one between the control room and the recording room, or the studio itself. And that's that wall right there. According to the isotrax instructions, the rail should be placed on the side where you want the quiet to be and all that, and that would be in the studio itself. Although we would like to have the control room quiet, it's not quite as necessary as having the studio quiet. And so there was our beam, and there's our sheetrock for the inside of the control room, and we label the sheetrock such, and we should be done with the floor plan for the control room. So we're going to need a few things to get ready for Barry's visit, and vocal tracks and guitar tracks and all that we're going to be doing when we lay that down. We have to solve a few problems that we had last time. We tried to do vocals, though. For one, we need a way to listen to it as a group without everybody having to wear headphones, so that we can review the mixes and things like that. And to do that, we need some speakers. For that, we chose a pair of Bose desktop speakers that we had hanging around in the living room sound system before. Next, we're going to need an amplifier to drive those speakers, so we picked up one that was part of the same sound system hanging around. We're eventually going to replace these, so I didn't add any cost for them because I didn't buy anything new. It's a fairly old amplifier, but it got the job done, has a lot of features, and in its day, it was considered quite the thing. Next, we're going to need some cabling to attach the speakers to the amplifier. This is the speaker wire that we chose. It's 12 gauge heavy duty. It's stranded instead of solid, so it works better and gives you more flexibility and tight connections. So here's the things we've added to the studio so far, but we're not done yet. We still got to finish our shopping list. Next problem that we had to solve was several pieces. We have a producer, an engineer, and a vocalist, and all of them need to be able to hear themselves, but the Volt only has two headphone outputs. We have three sets of headphones, so that shouldn't be a big problem. They're not matched, but there is an issue. Only one of them has a 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve. The rest of them have mini jacks, 3.5 millimeters. So we're going to need at least two adapters for those two headphones. Sweetwater to the rescue, and they have an adapter that's exactly what we need. Let's add that to the shopping list. Unfortunately, in order to deal with impedance issues, you can't just use a splitter cable in order to drive more headphones. You need a headphone amplifier. We'd like to do something in the future that perhaps needs more than just a producer and a single vocalist. So let's get something with 4 headphone channels. This looks like it'll do exactly what we need as far as splitting the headphones. So let's add this to the shopping list. But there's still an issue. The headphone output jack on the Volt is a 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve female. Even adding our extender cable, we're still going to end in a 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve female. Notice on the back of the headphone amplifier, the input is tip ring sleeve 1/4 inch female. Current social environment aside, physics is still physics, and female to female is not going to work very well. We're going to need to add something to our shopping list. This should do the job. We don't need a lot of length, and so this should work out just fine. So our final shopping list for Sweetwater looks like this. We got several things done on our task list, but we're going to get to add a big new one. Barry is coming to town to produce Real Country Song, and Sarah will be coming over to do the vocal tracks, and we got to lay piano for it as well. So that's exciting, and that's what we'll be doing next time. Here's the equipment that we added. We also added some expenses to the studio for that equipment that's on the shopping list, and there's that. And we'll hope you'll join us next time for Moose Tracks Studio.